So this week we're going to spend some time learning about foil characters. And foil characters are very popular in a lot of different styles of writing. So lots of authors choose to use them. Most famously, I think Shakespeare uses them in his plays very commonly because it's a great device to show different things about characters and to kind of make you question and think about characters in a new way. So let's just talk about what foil characters are and start with the definition. So a foil character is a character that possesses opposite or conflicting traits of another character. So you can see here like the yin and the yang symbol, and I think that that's really helpful in envisioning foil characters. They sort of work together to show different things about each other. Now, the purpose of a foil character is to help the reader in a couple of ways. It really allows the reader to understand a character's traits and motivations more clearly by setting them up against another character to compare them with. It also creates really great binary opposites. So if you're a math person, you know about binary numbers. We also have binary oppositions in writing. So good versus evil, strong versus weak. So different pairings of characters that show those contrasts. And it also helps us to create really accurate descriptions of the protagonist because we know our protagonist even better by comparing them to what they're not. Now, we understand people and ideas in much more detail and depth if we have something to compare them to, a frame of reference. And in literature, foil characters give us that element of comparison so that we can start to judge our protagonist and the other characters in the story against each other and really understand them more deeply. So how do we develop foil characters as a writer? Well, foil characters are developed by possessing traits that are in direct opposition of the main character. So, in other words, we think about what is the essence of the main character and their motivation, their perspective, their ideas, thoughts, feelings, and then what's the opposite or what's different about this other character? For example, if the protagonist is really smart, maybe the foil would be unintelligent. If the protagonist is selfish, maybe the foil character would be selfless. If the protagonist was funny, maybe the foil character would be serious. So this is a way to highlight the differences in these characters and to help us to better understand our main character in the story. So as you're looking for foil characters, here are some things to think about. Foil characters can be any character in your story. Many people mistakenly think that the foil character must be the antagonist because they're the opposite of the protagonist, but this is not always the case. In some stories, particularly in young adult stories, children's books, that can be very common. Like I'm thinking of Harry Potter. Definitely Voldemort is the antagonist in the story, but he's also the foil of Harry. But you could say that Hermione, in many ways, could also be a foil of Harry, right? So we need to think about the other characters. Maybe Ron also could be a foil of Harry, depending on how you think of them as characters and the way that they interact. The foil character's also not an evil twin in the story. Okay, so both of these characters could be good characters and be foils of each other. Good and evil are just one of the many contrasts you can have. Like I said, it could be funny versus serious. It could be smart versus, making poor decisions. Different types of contrasts that are being set up. When characters are both working towards the same goals, but they're foils of each other, the reader can see how people have very different views on the world, but possess the same overall goals or ambitions. So that's part of why an author includes them. So think about that. What does my character want? And what other characters maybe want the same thing, but go about approaching it differently? And that might be an angle to help you find your foil character. So this week, I'm asking you to take some notes on this topic. In a Google Doc or on paper, please create a chart comparing two foil characters from your independent reading book. So as you are setting this up, you could think in terms of a T-chart. I think that can be really helpful. And then discuss the meaning, the theme, or the developments behind these foil characters. And you're just going to note those things. And then as you're finished, you can either upload your Google document onto Schoology or take a picture of your paper and place that into the Schoology upload section. Now, I made an example for you so that you can get an idea of foil characters, and this is using characters from the Pearl. Now, I would certainly say that Kino and Wanna are not necessarily protagonist and antagonist. If anything, the Pearl is the antagonist in the story, or maybe the Doctor, but certainly not Wanna and Kino, right? But Kino's definitely our protagonist. Maybe Kino is his own antagonist. You could make an argument for that. But if we think about them as people and you look at this T chart, they've really created some characteristics that give us a sense of their contrasts. Where Kino is greedy, Wanna is giving. She's always doing, she's always helping, where he's always thinking about what he can get. Where Kino is headstrong, that means like stubborn, Wanna's very reasonable. She's thinking about all the different sides of things. Where Kino is aggressive, right? He attacks everyone who tries to take the pearl, but he also attacks her. She's passive. If you remember that great imagery, she was like a sheep at the butcher when he attacks her, right? So she's just sort of laying there watching it all happen and not fighting back. And in a lot of ways where Kino is very negative, almost pessimistic about the outcomes, Wanna is exceedingly positive. She keeps saying, if we just get rid of this pearl, everything's going to get better. And then you notice at the bottom, I did a little bit more explanation of my thoughts after I made these notes. So in the Pearl, both Kino and Wanna want what is best for their family. However, because they're foil characters, each one has a different view on what is best. And this helps develop each character. These foil characters demonstrate how, even though two people can have noble causes, how people pursue the cause will have a great impact on the success of the journey. Unfortunately, in this case, each character possesses a trait that prevents their success. If Steinbeck gave Kino Wanna's ability to reason and be positive, he may have been successful, but he lacked those traits, and he was doomed to fail. Okay. So this gives you an idea of the kind of analysis that I'm looking for this week. If you have any questions or you need help with foil characters, please let me know. And of course, if you don't have foil characters in your book, whether it's because you can't find them there or simply because you're in between books, check out the short story by Toni Cade Bambara called Raymond's Run that I've included in the folder. It's a great example of foils. It's a short story, but it has a lot of impact. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoy. Have fun reading.